Welcome, everybody out there, to the Big Book Roundtable in the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. We are grateful and happy to be a resource for people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. We're a resource for anybody out there looking for a solution. I'm Justin B. I'm a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in miraculous recovery, and I'm blessed to be the moderator of this roundtable. I'm joined by David G. and Nikki M. The three of us are striving to live one day at a time in this miracle of recovery, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live, a beautiful place to walk. So let's jump in and have David and Nikki introduce themselves. David, why don't you go first, and then followed by Nikki?
Sure. Thank you, Justin, for your service. Nikki, always a pleasure. I'm David G. From Oklahoma in the USA. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts. Been given the gift of recovery since August 8th of 1994. I'm really glad to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Nikki.
Hi, everybody. And I'm just as glad to be here too, David. And Justin, thank you again for just giving me this opportunity. And because I just got off my meeting, we have a Monday morning noodle meeting, and we had 144 people out. So I'm a little like nuts right now because I had to get real crazy. Someone said, "Why are you screaming, Nikki?" And I literally took the camera into the bedroom where my mom lives and showed them my mom whose husband blew his head off in front of her. And I said, "That's why I'm screaming. So no one else has to have their mother live in their master bedroom with them forever." So I'm just a ball of emotions here today, and I'm excited for you guys to get me centered.
Thanks, Nikki. And we'll see where that centering comes from. I always love having these conversations. I always walk away from them feeling better, feeling lifted, feeling centered. I loved how you put that. All right, so today we continue in our reading of the Big Book, line by line. That's what we do in the roundtable. We go line by line through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, 4th edition. We are continuing in Chapter 7, Working with Others. Today we will be reading from page 95 for a couple of paragraphs. The top of 95 paragraph begins with "unless your friend," and we'll go through that second paragraph on the page that ends with this he may do after he gets hurt some more. And what we're going to do is discuss this. So everybody out there, grab your big book, grab a highlighter, a pen, a paper, take some notes, and put into action things that you feel are actionable and that your higher power says get into work on that. All right, let's get into reading. Here we go. "Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he is likely to say you rushed him. You will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual high top. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. Show him how they worked with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or as a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more." All right, so quick reminder to everybody out there, this is still on the first visit. This is when we're qualifying the person, deciding, hey, are we going to sponsor them? What does this look like? And this has gone on for several pages, and we're wrapping that up here in a few paragraphs, but that's where we're at. So David, why don't you take us through those paragraphs and share with us your experience, strength, and hope and some of the things you have there.
Sure. And again, thank you for your service here, Justin. We've been talking a lot about this first visit and the things that we are to say, the suggestions that we are to give, mainly through our experience. I mean, if I'm just sitting down telling a man about the book, but I'm not really giving him any of my experiences on the other side of each one of these sentences, then really all I've done is gained a whole lot of knowledge about what the Big Book of Alcoholics says and not really doing a hell of a lot about what it says to do. And so by this point, you're right. We are wrapping up to the end of the first visit here. I've laid the case. I've given him an adequate presentation of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous through my experience. And it says, unless he wants to talk any further about himself, then we don't need to wear out our welcome. In other words, it's time to shut up. It's time to leave him alone about it. Now, here, the meat's on the plate. Do you want to eat or do you want to stay hungry? Give him a chance to think it over. I think this is a very important direction in our big book. I was of the type in the early days, and I know people still are, some to this day. If you want this, you need to tell me right now, and we need to do it right now, and we need to go with this. But our book says something different. It says give him a chance to think this over. And I do believe that's very important. So, but if you do hang around, and this is one direction that I don't like in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really don't follow this too much to the letter, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Now, if you've got someone that's laying there drunk or high, or they're in an emotional bottom of whatever, and you let them steer the conversation in any direction you like, I can guarantee you what direction that's going to go. There's going to be a whole lot of shame, and I'm no good, and I hurt her, and she hurt me, and I left him, and and oh my God, I hurt my children, and I've done this, and I've done, and I just don't want to get into all of that. I really don't. So it's very hard to do, is to let him steer the conversation in any direction that he wants. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once. You may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. Very, very important. I've done this on about 2 to 3 different occasions. The first one was with a young man at an in-person meeting that I picked up and I began to sponsor. He was fresh out of a rehab center, and man, I threw him into the book, and everything I threw at him, he took more and more and more and more, until we got to step 5. Of all steps, of all the writing that he did through inventory, of all the steps, at 5, he balked and he wouldn't move, and he didn't want to do it. And, I seen that it was a mistake, moving him through there as quick as I did. But at the same time, he had already finished up the first 4 steps and all the writing. So it was time, and I stayed on him. And he just never would do it. So finally I dropped him. I let him go, and he ended up relapsing and falling out. The second time there was a doctor that I sponsored in another country. And this guy was the same way. He came out of the chute running hard with the book, with the steps. He understood the self. He understood the malady, the thinking, the concepts, ideas. But he understood it all. We got through it. He moved through his inventory. We did his 5th steps. Got him all the way up to 9. He balked. I was like, oh shit, I've seen this before. It's only been in years earlier. And so long story short, in a short time, he relapsed and was going out again. So a lot of people say it's best to run people through the steps in a day or 2. I know in the early days they did this. That's not my experience with this. I think Bill kind of contradicts himself here, because he says that, sometimes you do it. I think that's why the word sometimes is there. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted. This is sometimes, not always, but sometimes this is a mistake. And in my case, in these 2 experiences that I shared with you, it was most definitely a mistake. So whenever I take somebody through the work, it's going to be a long process of going through it. It's not going to be a hurry up, get done, and then we can catch up on the backside later. No, I don't want to do that, because I'm gambling with their life. And, if they're putting their trust in me, I want to do it the way the book says to do it. And so it says, and here's why. Because if he has trouble later, he's likely to say you rushed him. And I can remember one of those 2 men out of that experience saying, well, you shouldn't have ran me through there that fast. And I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I should not have, but you were taking everything I was throwing down. So I just kept doing it. I've learned better since. But it says you'll be most successful. And I want to zone in on them 2 words. Because if I'm going to be most successful as a spearhead, an agent of God's ever advancing creation, as a sponsor, as a mentor, as a guide, whenever it tells me I'm going to be most successful, I damn sure want to pay attention to what he's telling me. If I do not exhibit any passion or crusade for reform, it doesn't matter. I've got passion for you to recover, but you need to have the same passion as me, not just me. And don't talk down to him from any moral, spiritual hilltop. I remember saying a lot in the early days, or hearing in a meeting, don't get so damn earthly good that you ain't no spiritually, or don't get so spiritually good you're not no any earthly good anymore. And I think that kind of refers to what we're talking about here. But lay out this kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. So what the hell are they? I mean, that becomes the big question here. And if you remember back on page 25 of our book, this is where that was mentioned whenever Jung was having that conversation with Roland Hazard. And he laid out the simple kit of spiritual tools at his feet about the spiritual experience, what it required. At the top of page 25, it says there is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, that's step 4. The confession of the shortcomings, that's step 5. But that's what this process is going to require for its successful consummation. But he's going to give the rest of the steps in these next few sentences. But we saw that it really worked in others. And if I see that in you, then I have to have been restored to some sort of sanity. So that's step 2 for me. We've come to believe in the hopelessness and futility. We know that's step 1 of the life as we've been living it. So when therefore we're approached and by those in who the problem had been solved, there's nothing left but to pick up that simple kit that he just outlined in those sentences of spiritual tools laid at our feet. So back over here, it's the same thing again. So I need to show him how those things work for me. I need to show that in my life, not just talk at a meeting and expect him to pick it up. And this is one of the biggest ways I'm going to do that. I'm going to show him friendship. I'm going to show him fellowship, whether we work or not. But I will tell him this, and I will tell anybody this. If you want to get well, and I would circle those 2 words, highlight it, stars by it, underline it, whatever you need to do. Because people that tell you don't get well here, well, they're full of shit. If you want to get well, we'll do anything to help you through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Put your hand in the hand of God and walk into this solution. If you're not interested in that, though, if you only want me to lend you money, come and hang out with you whenever you're getting over a hangover. If you want to vent to me all the time, and be a nurse for your sprees, then I'm definitely going to do what it says right here. I'm going to drop you. And if you change your mind and come back, I'm probably going to refer you on to somebody else because there's a lot of people who's willing and ready to do this work. So, but most of us do that after we get hurt some more. So that's my experience, strength, and hope on those 2 paragraphs. I'm anxious to hear, Nikki. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, David. And I've written down a couple things here to get back to you about here after Nikki shares her experience, strength, and hope on these couple of paragraphs. Nikki, what do you got?
Okay, that's great. Did we go to the 3rd paragraph? Because if I do, I'll just go a little deeper on that part.
Just the first 2 paragraphs.
Okay. See, my mind's crazy from the noodle. Okay, here we go. David, thank you so much. Like everything David said, yes, agreed. It's all in the book. But here we are. Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, don't wear out your welcome. And I know you put it in the show links, I work out of a Big Book sponsorship workbook guide. It's basically the Big Book condensed into 30 pages. And what my sponsor has done is he's extrapolated every single human aid out there and put it into what we call a log and loser list. The log list is all your human aids, your easier, softer ways, your middle of the road solutions that fail to keep you permanently. These things help temporarily. So I don't really get to talk much. I just go straight to this log and loser list. And basically we check off everything. Did willpower work for you? Yes or no? And I just go down the list. Frothy emotional pills, guilt and shame, money, no money, having babies, jail, suffering, incomprehensible demoralization, exercise, war stories, detoxes, ill health. Did any of this keep you permanently sober? Permanently? No, didn't for me either. What did you lose? I lost everything. So did you. There we go. I don't spend a lot of time on this. Give them a chance to think it over. I'm in a situation now, 13 years into my program, where I have to tell people I can't sponsor you. They really want it when they call me. I wake up to one message probably every day. Can you sponsor me, Nikki? Now, thank God I've sponsored enough people. Like David said, I can send my sponsees these people, and let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Again, as David said, my line out says, hell no. That's a big hell no. Because I always say like this, and I did it today on Noodle. Some woman was giving us an archive of her life. I stopped her 1 minute into it and I said, lady, we don't do that on this meeting. Page 112, 112. I've read this book. So I know everything about you. I'm you, you're me. I don't want to hear it, you know? And so I love this too. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed. I book appointments. See, before, we have our little jive talk and we just check in. How you guys doing? How you doing, Nikki? And David told us, he could have been an RN, a nurse, right? I want to say that Dave is a soul surgeon. Okay, I am too. And so I book appointments with these people. You're not going to take my time hostage. So I book an appointment and I show them how to show up for life because they don't know how. They're defecating, fornicating apes like me when I'm not treated. I mean, this is facts. So I have to show them. And it says right here about taking them through, real quickly. No, I book an appointment. We make 4 appointment, 2-hour appointments. Boom, that's it. A doctor's office. And I want you to do the same with your sponsees. And I love this too. You'll be most successful if you do not exhibit passion for crusader reform. My lineup says this is the design for living. So it includes your children too. I do not crusade. When my son, he's 20 years old, I did not push him anyway. Let me know how that works out for you, dude. I'm in my hot tub and I'm retired and I'm 51 years old. Well, I do have a grocery money job because it's 2025 and groceries are so expensive. Anyway, I love this. Never talk down to, and how about anybody, not just an alcoholic? These are life rules. Now, I do yell. I'm a loud person and I can get real crazy because I'm like, you're going to drop dead and I'm not here for it. And then I will lay out, and I love this word, simple. It's just simple, simply lay out. This is all so simple. Stop complicating it. And then I'm going to show, not tell. I'm going to show what worked for me. And I show them what my life is like. And I just told you what it is. I'm shocked that I don't have a damn job after COVID. Like, how am I surviving in this life? I have a big house, a big life. I have so many responsibilities and I don't have any problems. And if you want to get well, if you care, I will. If you don't, I can't. Son, daughter, sponsee, mom, human race. This is so radical. I guess that's, no, wait, no, we go down one. Oh yeah, one more. So here it is. No, that's all we went to, isn't it?
No, one more paragraph. One more paragraph.
I'm weird today, and I had a coffee. I should be more. Oh, I know what happened, everybody. You know that bewitching hour at 3 a.m. when sometimes your spirit guides and God will wake you up to talk quietly to you in the morning? I never went back to sleep. So if my person's not interested in my solution, right, and he expects that I'm going to act like a personal assistant, someone messaged me this morning from a country I don't know and said, what time does the meeting start, Nikki? And what was my response? I'm not your personal secretary. You could find marijuana, you could find penises, you could find food, you could find fear and worry, figure out what time the meeting starts. Okay? And it says right here, I may have to drop him until he changes his mind. I want you to have the desperation of a drowning person. Okay? I want you desperate every day. Otherwise, I'm not going to work with you. I think that's it. I'm real confused today. Thank you guys for loving me.
Thanks, Nikki. Appreciate your share there. And we'll get to some questions here real quick. So, David, you said something early in your analysis, your experience, strength, and hope on this that I just had to write down because it's such a powerful thing. You said, I don't need to just learn what the book says, but what it says to do. Talk a little bit about the difference between what the book says and what the book says to do and why it's so important to find out what it says to do and then act on it.
Well, I think to do it is really, it's easy to sit around here and learn the book word for word, share it from memory, but at the same time, not be sending nightly reviews or doing 10 steps on a regular basis, not praying on my knees or going to a meeting whenever I should. There's so many things that it says to do. It says we asked his protection and care with complete abandon. That's a prayer. How many of us really do that every day? I do now, now that I've caught on to that a little more, and it was only through reading the book and what it said to do with another person that I seen it for myself. I was telling him, this is what you need to be doing. And I stopped myself and I said, wait a minute, I shouldn't be telling you that because I don't do that. Not daily, but I want to commit to you and you to me to start doing this together every day. And we have ever since. So, it's really important to do what the book says to do, because otherwise I'm just spouting off a lot of knowledge. I never really had a good memory. I don't even know how I came to understand and comprehend the book the way I did, because, I went to jail for most of my life as a young adult. I did not go to school. I did not, move into things intellectually. I learned how to work hard, swing a hammer, beat the hell out of people, and get them to bend to my will. That's all I did all my life. So when I came out, I really didn't know whether or not I could get this deal, because I knew how to read, but my comprehension level really wasn't that high. It was just kind of like Nikki says, on certain days, hell, I was all over the place all the time, and, but God gave me that insight and understanding, and I had some damn good people in my life to teach me the big book, Charlie of Joe and Charlie, and a lot of the other guys from Colorado and the Don Pritz lineage. And, the more I studied and the more I read, the more I became willing to do what it said to do, and I had a good experience. But there's times when I get lazy and I don't do that all the time. And when I don't, by the grace of God, I don't drink. But at the same time, it's like I go dull. It's like I start forgetting. So if I'm not constantly working with others and I'm just spouting off what I know about the book, then I'm really, really not sharing experience, strength, and hope with you. I'm just sharing a whole lot of knowledge. So that's my answer to that question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. And as I've learned, self-knowledge is not the solution. So this is good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Nikki, you and I have spoken about this a few times, and I just really admire this about you, about how you create a schedule and you stick to it, and try and keep those that relationship and those boundaries, I guess, is the only word that's coming to mind, in that schedule with those you work with. Talk to us a little bit more about the importance of that in your life in working with the newcomer.
Well, it's very important because we come in here and we read it back a few pages back, page 88. We addicts are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us. And so what is God? Well, it's being responsible. See, I don't know. And then and go deeper. A lot of us are responsible. Like, as David said, I love when he said a long time ago, it's like, like when his sponsor said, yesterday was Father's Day. So everybody, happy Father's Day, grandpas, and even single mothers out there. Thank you for all you do. But it's just like, he was a good dad. He could pay the bills. Me too. My house was spotless. I'm a great mom, but I'm emotionally undisciplined. I want you to make me feel better. Yet my bank is, all the T's and dots are crossed on my bank. I'm paying my bills. My bed is made, but I am so undisciplined in my emotions, in my spirit. It's everywhere. So how do I get disciplined? It's literally like what David said, like, you can't just talk the talk. You need to walk the talk. Our department shouts, we have recovered. So I need to show my sponsees what being a woman of God looks like. See, a woman of God shows up on time. Actually, a woman of God might show up 5 minutes early. This, and the book says it's radical. It says a radically changed attitude. Your old attitude is that you show up late. Your old attitude is that this and that and this and that. Your new attitude is that you are disciplined and you're a respecter of time. And I'll end it here, because straight up, I can get a new husband. I can get new kids. I can go and adopt one if I want one. I can get a new 4-pound puppy dog. And if I want a new mom, God, I'll fly down to Oklahoma and take David's mom and serve her and her, like this is crazy, but I can't get more time. See, I cannot get more time. And I want to respect the time. So this is real important to me. That's why I like my title. Yes, it says love and tolerance is our code, but go deeper. I think being my authentic self is my code. So I book appointments. I'm a soul surgeon, and don't be late because I can't charge you. This is all free.
Thank you, Nikki. Love how you walked through that. Let's go into some takeaways here, and I'm going to start us off with a takeaway. And this is also something David said earlier. Don't get so spiritually good that you aren't earthly good. And I love that. I am here to, I currently believe that God has me here as a medic to go out and find the man who is still sick in the field, dying, crying for medic, and to point them to the solution in the field. And that's and if I think, oh, I'm above that or whatever, I'm my effectiveness is gone. All right, what's a takeaway that you have, David?
Well, I'd say commitment, I guess, willingness, honesty. Nikki committed to come take care of my mom, so she's committed now. See you soon. Now, I just think the willingness, and if you don't have the willingness, our book says on page 76, and it is the 6-step prayer. You hear a lot about the 7-step prayer, but the 6-step prayer says, if we cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. So in doing this work, if you don't feel like, man, that's too much, I could never do that, it's too big, it's just too much, just try to stay in the day with that and just pray for the willingness to become willing, to surrender. I got tired of praying that prayer because I'd get my ass kicked hard and then I'd come in here very willing, but it does work. Trust me. So I would say probably the willingness. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Nikki, what's a takeaway for you?
Show. I just think show. I think life is a performance. Remember, I'm a burlesque entertainer. Well, retired. No one wants to see me now doing anything, but it's a show. I'm to get out there and be the best showman about what God can do for a crazy lady like me. So I just want to show the world all the time this power. And I love us because we laugh while doing it. We're just a fun little group of people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, David, for this conversation as we continue through chapter 7, and we'll pick up next time in the next paragraphs here. But in the meantime, everybody, join us in the fellowship of the Spirit and come and trudge this adventurous and amazing road of happy destiny with us. Work it. You are worth it.